Hello and welcome to your news for Notts today. I'm Emma Caldwell and here's a look at some of our top stories and great local guests on the way this Thursday afternoon. As the NHS is swamped with a tidal wave of flu and other winter pressures, we've been to a temporary ward at Nottingham City Hospital set up to ease the beds crisis.
This ward in particular has been really well timed with it opening. That will enable us to keep taking patients out of A&E, reduce any ambulance waits, try and keep our patients safe.
Also on the way, two big developments at Nottingham City Council today as it fights to get back on track. First off, there could be progress on the Broad Marsh as funding is finally made available to knock the rest of it down. But a new report also warns the council is still in so much financial trouble it would need to put council tax up by 50% just to keep going as it is. And we're also going to be meeting the Nottingham horse experts using their animals' calming influence to boost the mental health of local kids through innovative new therapies.
Ride max, trotting, like a jogger.
So this has definitely been the winning kind of article for us here. He's just now a talkative boy, whereas before he was very reserved.
That is a fabulously wrapped up warm family, isn't it? And a Nottingham football club sets up when cricketers got bored in the winter is turning 60 this month. We're going to be taking a closer look back over the history of Radford FC and how they've gone from a workplace football team to being semi-professional. Their chairman joins us later on in the show. And in sport, 5th place Nottingham Forest look ahead to their game against Aston Villa at home. Unit manager Nuno Espirito Santo warns the Birmingham side are coming back to form, meaning it's a crucial tie in the fight to control the top half of the table.
Villa is a very good team of football. The way they manage the times of the game, their possession, the way they defend, the way the effective, the quality and the talent of the players. So by saying that, big task ahead of us.
All that and more on the way, but first tonight, are you or is someone you know seriously under the weather at the moment? There are growing concerns over what medics are calling a quademic in the NHS, with cases of the 4 most common viral illnesses, such as flu and vomiting bugs, rising each week. As part of the plans to cope with the surging seasonal demand, Nottingham City Hospital opened an extension today. The Newell ward has already seen 12 referrals in its first week. And Jack Sims went to see how the unit is coping.
We've all said it before, whether it's a cough, a sneeze or an empty desk. There's something going round this time of year. But it is these common colds and flus that can end up putting significant strain on our health services when they get more serious for some of us. And it's here in the halls of Nottingham City Hospital where this squeeze has been felt the tightest, with national concerns surrounding the increasing amount of flu, norovirus and respiratory cases. Last week, the NHS saw a 70% increase in these cases in hospitals across the country, 3.5 times higher than last year. This rise has been seen across Nottingham hospitals too, with serious cases of flu, other viruses and norovirus overall going from 75 to 105 cases across the QMC and City sites, such as the Newell ward, which has been designed to create bed space on other wards and reduce ambulance wait times. It is already seeing use, with 24 of its 27 beds now taken up by patients with various conditions, like 87-year-old Mary Hunt.
It's been brilliant. I didn't know about this hospital at one time, but I recommended it to anybody now. It's very good and fun. They're lovely. Get in there slow but sure.
And for the Hospital Trust, being able to provide a better quality care at this time of year will prevent wards from being overwhelmed and needing to treat people on stretchers in corridors, a familiar sight last winter.
This ward in particular has been really well timed with it opening because actually we do have a number of closed wards at the moment. So that will enable us to keep taking patients out of A&E, reduce any ambulance waits and try and keep our patients safe.
Although this ward currently has no specific seasonal virus cases, staff say it is expecting further increases and will do everything they can to keep beds free.
So at the moment we haven't really seen too much of a spike in the flu, COVID and cold kind of RSV virus yet, which is good. That's what we're hoping for, not too much of a spike. These are obviously concerning illnesses and viruses that we have to consider, especially at winter time.
The ward is expected to be open until Easter next year. But for now, doctors and nurses being able to adapt to whatever the winter throws at them will make all the difference to the patients lying in these wards. Jack Sims for Notts TV.
Thanks, Jack. And our local democracy reporter, Lauren Monaghan, is here now to talk more about some of the problems healthcare is seeing across Notts at the moment. Lauren, it seems very busy. What are hospitals currently facing?
So I'm sure people are seeing this all over the news, anywhere over the country at the moment. But so they're facing increased pressures when it comes to flu, neurovirus, RSV and COVID as well. So the QMC is actually the second busiest emergency department in the country. They're currently seeing a spike. If we just go back to some November statistics, and this is pre-winter peak as well. So in one 13-hour slot, there was 340 patients in.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite high. And that was in November, so this is before the peak. Roughly 500 to 600 going through the emergency department a day. So some statistics published by NHS England on the 5th of December, so this was last week, they're kind of predicting this quaddemic. So they saw a 350% increase in flu cases, an 86% increase in neurovirus, and in hospital, and this is compared to the same week last year, basically. Wow. So it does seem a bit more intense this year.
It really is. And what about some of the stats for Nottingham specifically?
So I was in City Hospital today, and we got confirmed figures as of today at the NUH Trust. So there was 105 patients with the flu across the QMC and City Hospital today. This is compared to 75 this time last week. Wow. So within 1 week, there's already been a 30 patient increase. So I think we're starting to see that those winter numbers trickle in now. And then they don't have specific neurovirus figures, but they're saying it's in line with the national average, about 27.4% higher in the hospital than the regular seasonal average as of right now.
Goodness me. And we've had various people from NUH talking here on the sofa about the predicted increase in patients that are coming in. Half of me thinks, blimey, it's increasing, what are they doing? But they have done something about it. They've got this new ward. You were there today. Yeah. What was it like?
Yes, so it's the Newell ward at City Hospital. They've also got one planned for the QMC. I'll speak about that in a second. So it's 27 new beds. It's to deal with the winter pressures, like an overspill as such. But today it's mostly elderly people. It's mostly people with respiratory issues, not because that's what all the ward is for, just because I think it's typical for the time of year. It is technically open to anyone of a range of medical requirements, but it opened this month and they had 12 referrals in their first week, and it is nearly at capacity. And this one should be open for around 17 weeks. We spoke to a lovely patient called Mary. She is going to be 88, I believe, on Saturday. I think I got that right. She praised the care that she'd received. Apparently she'd been dealt with wonderfully, and her son also said the same thing. So QMC are also opening a similar ward. This is around the start of January. Same number sort of beds. I think this one will be open for a shorter period of time. But I was speaking to some of the staff there, and when it comes to corridor care, these temporary extra wards, it's 28 less patients in the corridor, 27 less patients in the corridor. So it's doing good for corridor care, basically.
And what, I imagine when you were there, you were speaking to various medical professionals, what are they saying about keeping safe and kind of avoiding these winter bugs, if that's possible?
So I think it's just a case of people can make their own decisions on how to avoid and stay healthy in the winter, but it's obviously get your flu jabs, get your COVID jabs, particularly if you are over 65, if you've got a pre-existing health condition, and if you're pregnant as well. But currently NHS staff are also being urged to get their jabs to protect themselves and others.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for keeping us informed in that. Let's hope they are not too busy over that winter period. Thanks, Lauren. Two more news around Notts now, and two massive developments in the city for the council today. First off, more than £3 million is being given to the authority so it can get on with demolishing the other half of the old Broadmarsh shopping centre. The funding is coming from the East Midlands Combined County Authority, and that is the body headed up by new regional Labour Mayor Claire Ward. City Council leader Nagat Khan says the money will finally help move forward long-awaited regeneration on the new Green Heart area and free up space for the site's master plan, designed to change the look and the feel of the city centre. And there's more developments on the City Council's fight to get out of financial trouble after it declared effective bankruptcy a year ago. A report out today warns it would need to put council tax up by 46% or get a 70% boost in funding from the government just to continue operating as it is. The report also says managers at the authority are not always present because of hybrid working, and policies are being reviewed to make them more accessible. The verdict is the first of a series of updates from a team of commissioners. That's the government-appointed experts first sent in to help run the Labour-run council back in February. Right, so when we come back, how horses are helping Nottinghamshire kids with ADHD to get their mental health back in the saddle. And we're also going to be looking at the history of a local semi-pro football team set up by a group of apprentices 60 years ago. We'll see you in a sec. Hello, welcome back to the show, putting everywhere in Notts on the map, from Bulwell to Bingham, Basford to Blydydd. We've got you covered. So I'm Emma Caldwell. Let's look at some more local headlines. First, and Nottinghamshire County Council is predicting its overspend will be under £1 million by the end of April 2025, a drop-off of more than £3 million on former estimates. The Conservative-run council's cabinet member for finance, Richard Jackson, says the figures have been achieved through things like vacancy control, management of the council's cash flow and assessing the spending of different departments. Labour says the gap is being closed because of creative accounting and extra government money. East Midlands Airport will close to make scheduled repairs on its runway over a series of dates in the next 3 months. Managers have stressed there will be no impact on passengers as all the work is taking place during what is known as no flight hours. The airport near Castle Donington will shut between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on December the 18th, plus 4 dates in January and 2 in February. Repairs will be made to the runway on both the passenger and cargo parts of the airport. Now, we know the powerful bond between people and animals, but you might have heard of therapy dogs. Have you ever heard of equine-assisted therapy, though? It's a form of treatment that involves horses and trained handlers, and several Nottinghamshire organisations are using this experimental method to improve the lives of children with things like learning difficulties, mental health, and even physical disabilities too. Izzy Fekulak went to find out more.
Jacob suffers with autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, known as ADHD. The condition affects about 1 in 20 children and can impact someone's focus and emotions. Jacob's been attending these sessions in Gedling for almost 18 months, and his parents say they can't believe the progress they've seen. Supporters of horse therapy or equine-assisted therapy say it's helping neurodivergent kids make great progress by boosting confidence, social skills, and helping with anxiety. The four-legged therapist can support a range of conditions, both mental and physical.
We ride Max, trotting, like a jogger.
So this has definitely been the winning kind of article for us here. He's just now a talkative boy, whereas before he was very reserved. He's really came out of his social circle.
When Jacob first came, he was very shy, he wouldn't talk to me, he wouldn't be here on his own with me, and he really struggled initially to actually spend any time with the horses at all. So now Jacob, he stays on his own with me. He's more communicative, he's much more engaging with Max. Not everybody fits into the box of being able to sit in a room and talk. It can be quite intimidating, and young people in particular can find that quite difficult.
Though it's clear this weekly slot means a lot to Jacob, the form of treatment is fairly new and more research and unique professionals are needed before waiting lists go down and the benefits are more clearly understood. Jacob's treatment is not part of the NHS, but his parents and trainers say they're clearly making a difference. The sessions are run by a specialist who is both a qualified mental health professional and an equine expert. The people behind the treatment say they're seeing a difference in children every day.
If you've got the right type of animal, they can have a calming effect on somebody's central nervous system. Emotionally, horses give instant, honest feedback, and they will show us through their interactions. As an alternative provision, it's really finding its feet to show its benefits. There's a lot of work we still need to do with regards to researching and providing the evidence to back what we do and why we do it.
Equine therapy is not currently offered on the NHS, although it may be used alongside other treatments. Research into its true benefits is ongoing though. Families like Jacob's may one day be able to get four-legged furry friends on prescription. Izzy Fekulak for Notts TV.
Next, before the sports roundup, we are going to be taking a look at one Nottingham club that has been going for 60 years this month. Radford Football Club is celebrating a 6 decades worth of playing football in the county. 60 years ago, a team of young workers at an engineering firm in Radford set up a works football team, building on the success of a charity cricket match that they'd organised earlier on this year. They've since, of course, turned themselves into a semi-professional club, and their ground manager Tony Osborne and chairman Bob Thomas, who has been around from the start, join me now. Thank you so much for joining us. 60 years is incredible, and I love the fact that you were both there from the beginning. Bob, let's start with you. What was it like those 60 years ago? How did the club start?
Well, we was all very young then.
Still look great.
Yeah, it started, we were an engineering company. We decided to form a football club, or a football team at that time. We started playing friendly games. We got quite serious, and then we went into a football league in 1966, a year or so just after, and we have 7 of the original team still around, and obviously we're inviting those to our 60th anniversary. But yeah, the club has progressed in many, many ways.
And did you ever think in a million years, when you started this club all those years ago, that it would still be going 60 years on?
If I'm honest, Emma, no. We were a group of young boys who played for other clubs as well. I mean, Saturday football was the mainstay at that time, but we formed and played Sundays. But we were great friendships as we had from the engineering days. And we've kept that spirit going. We've been apart sometimes, but we're still there as a club.
I absolutely love that. And Tony, for you, what about these last 60 years? What are some of the highlights been for you?
Well, the highlights are really from those early days. Begged, borrowed and stealed kits, playing on some pitches that resemble the Somme, shall we say, to where we are today. There's no comparison to what we've achieved over those years with lots and lots of people. I mean, you can imagine how many players have been through the club during those years, and how many still come back to see us even today, because we're a welcoming club. We're renowned to be a very friendly club, and once people have been down and sampled what we've got on offer, they keep coming back.
Oh, I love that. And you were saying as well that the kind of camaraderie and the friendship of the people that you were playing with at the time kind of continued. Do you think the ethos is still the same? You were saying when people see how friendly it is, they keep coming back.
Absolutely, they do, yeah. It is still the same. We're like a band of brothers, shall we say. You know? And long may it continue.
Absolutely, yes, in the next 60 years. So how are you going to be celebrating those 60 years?
Well, we're having an event on the 28th of this month, 28th of December, to celebrate the fact that it's a 60-year-old event, and we've invited all the players, ex-players, ex-officials, current players,
wow,
and anyone that's been associated with the club in those past 60 years to this event on Saturday the 28th.
Incredible. And what do you think it is about Radford FC that is so special, that just has been going for this long?
Well, I think it's all about friendship, Emma. You know, we've stayed together, even as apprentices, together as that team. We still see each other regularly, and that's the spirit we've encouraged and tried to progress through the club for many, many years.
Amazing. What about for you,
It has
Tony?
been, you know, we've stuck at it. It's not been easy at times, but the ethos has got us through. The camaraderie, we've all mucked in together. Tasks at the ground, building stands, clubhouse, extensions, all been done through people within the club. We've had nothing given to us, you know, for free.
It's
shall we
all
say.
from you guys, and I love that. And if there's people watching now that are thinking, actually, I've been part of that, and I used to play, or I used to go and watch with my mum and dad, where can they find out more about you?
Well, we have a website, and it's Radford Football Club. If they just put that into the website, they will get information there. We have Facebook site, and we also have Twitter site and an Instagram site.
Oh,
at
you're on all the socials, you lot.
At Radford FC 64.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on 60 amazing years. Come and tell us more about it when you hit 70 years as well. Bob,
We will
Tony,
do.
thank you very much.
Hopefully.
Appreciate your
Thanks.
time.
Fingers
Thank you
crossed.
very much.
I love that. Next, Nottingham Forest look to continue on their massive 3-2 victory away at Old Trafford with another win at the City Ground to Aston Villa. After recent poor form, Villa look to be back on track after beating both Brentford and Southampton. Head coach Nuno Espirito Santo said he expects the game to be a tough one for both sides.
It's a good one. It's a good one, and it shows in their team Villa is a very good team of football. The way they manage the times of the game, their possession, the way they defend, the way the effective, the quality, and the talent of the players. So by saying that, big task ahead of us. We take a good look at Villa and realize that we have to compete very well. And we are preparing for it. We are preparing. We work today, we're going to prepare tomorrow, and we're going to go for that on Saturday. We're going to go for it. My job, prepare my players to compete. Because if the team goes well, the club will go well, the city will be happy, and this is what we want.
And sticking with football in League One, Mansfield Town hit the road to face Charlton away this weekend. Just 1 point splits both sides in the table. The Stags have lost their last 5, whilst Charlton have also lost their last 2 league games. Manager Nigel Clough says the game will be a tough one with both sides in inconsistent form.
Another one of the ex-Premier League boys in the league, and huge stadium. And a great place for us to go and play. I think they've been a little bit up and down, like ourselves, so far this season. But I think it'll be an interesting game. We are incredibly close. And I still maintain, you know, you can look back to the games where I think we won 5 on the spin, didn't we? We won Crawley, Northampton. We weren't playing anywhere near as well as we're playing now. So it's just tightening up on 1 or 2 little things, improving very, very small details really within games. And then it's fine margins from there on in.
Looking at League 2 now, and Notts County play Salford City away on Saturday with an early 12:30 kick-off. They're back in action after a week off the pitch due to their game against Colchester United at home being postponed. The Magpies sit 9th in the table on 28 points with a game in hand on Chesterfield in 8th. Time now for your Thursday photo of the day. And look at this great shot of wintry petals in West Bridgford taken by the Kendall Louise on Instagram. Thanks for that. Time now for your weather, and tonight we'll see temperatures drop to 5 degrees, so wrap up warm if you're off out. Tomorrow will be a cloudy day with highs of 7 and lows of 5. And lastly, Saturday we'll see sunshine in the early afternoon with a low of 6 and a high of 7. We're back in just a few minutes when we'll welcome more great local guests and bring you your What's On guide for Notts. We'll see you in just a sec. Hello, welcome back to the only show all about your local news and views from across Nottinghamshire. I'm Emma Caldwell. More great guests on the way, but first some more news headlines from the city and the county. First, Nottingham City Council's schools budget will run out of emergency funding by 2027, a new report warns. The city's school forum met to discuss the shortfall yesterday. The money is used to top things like extra services in schools for children with special educational needs and disabilities and create urgent specialist spaces. The group of councillors and officials heard the fund has about £19 million left, but on current spending will run dry within 3 years. More funding from government is expected to help alongside a recovery plan. Next, a shoplifter renowned for stealing from shops in Newark is behind bars again after stealing again just weeks after being let out of jail. Raymond Canham, who's 51, did 8 weeks in prison earlier this year for a spree in the summer, but after being let out, he targeted a number of shops again from September to earlier on this month. After being caught on CCTV stealing things like meat, cheese and dishwasher tablets, he was tracked down and charged with 12 counts of shop theft. He pleaded guilty at Nottingham Magistrates Court on Tuesday and was sentenced to another 20 weeks in prison. Time now for your What's On guide, where we take a little look at what you can get up to out and about this fine Thursday evening. And kicking it off over at the Christmas concerts, Nottingham College Musical Theatre on St Peter's Gate, and that starts at 7. Tickets start at £6, which just sounds wonderful. And if you fancy a bit of a night out, well, look no further as Turned Night is back at Rock City for a huge student night out. I know there's been a lot of graduations today, with 2 for 1 drinks and a silent disco too. That gets started at 10, and you can get your tickets on the door. And of course it is panto season, whether you're heading to the Theatre Royal for their panto or any of our brilliant pantos across Nottingham, have a great time. Theatre Royal Panto starts tonight at 7:15. Next, Nottinghamshire County Council are planning more events and activities to bring together our armed forces and local communities throughout next year. A ceremony that will honour those who have significantly contributed to the arms force community in Nottinghamshire, as well as getting residents to send in their own poetry to do with Nottingham's involvement in previous conflicts, are just some of the ways they hope will commemorate and support veterans and their relatives from our county. And to tell us more about the planned initiatives is Councillor Keith Girling. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. So what can you tell us about the reaffirming of Nottingham County Council's commitment to the armed forces community?
Well, I think we lead the way, to be fair, in terms of upper tier councils, how we're supporting our veterans in Nottinghamshire. And we're blessed in Nottinghamshire. We've got lots of charities, military type charities, and we've all come together to work together to make sure we do the best we can for any of the armed forces family, really, because it's not just about the veterans. It's also about the reservists,
of course,
and it's also about the families of those people as well. And we also include adult cadet instructors, because that's really important as well.
So tell us about the awards ceremony, because that sounds really exciting.
Well, it's not really an award ceremony. You're talking about the boots and berries.
Yes.
Oh, right. The boots and berries is brilliant. That came as an idea from Neil Betterson, which is he's my lead officer for the armed forces. Say, wouldn't it be great if we had a business awards? And it went from his idea where we'd just go to County Hall and give everybody canapes and say well done and things like that, to me taking over and I'm sort of all glitzy and things like that, to being a black tie event.
Love a bit of glitz.
Love a bit of glitz. and we had a black tie event at the first one was last year at the City Ground.
Yeah.
And I'm an Ox County fan, so the colour scheme was black and white, so I was quite pleased with that. But it went really well. We had Sir John Peace as our main speaker, and it went absolutely fantastic. And then as a result, so there's about 110 people attended that, and then we did it again this year, and we had 220 people attending, and it was Sir Andrew Pullman that was our guest speaker as well. So we have some really good guest speakers. It's going to happen again. It's self-sustainable now, so it doesn't cost anybody taxpayers' money. It's all through sponsorship from businesses. So we're really excited about it.
Amazing. And you talked earlier about supporting families as well. How are you planning supporting families in the county?
Well, basically what we do is any services that we provide for veterans is also available for their families as well, the immediate family, because they have to go through the same sort of traumas. You know, when somebody goes away, a man or woman goes away into a war zone,
yeah,
you know, it impacts not just on them, it also impacts on their family. So, you know, it's the husbands go away or the wives go away, while the kids are there. You know, we've got to look after them, make sure that the families have got things to do. So we try and get involved with the families and provide some sort of funding sometimes to give them activities so they feel part of the community.
And why do you think it's important to support, like you say, from a community side, that's not just done sort of by the national government, that we do that here in Nottinghamshire?
Well, it's really important because, you know, everybody sees veterans as the thing. You know, and some people's views of veterans is a crusty old bloke with a blazer on and loads of medals and badges and who served 30, 40 years ago. Well, that's not the truth. You know, a veteran is somebody that's left a couple of weeks ago, you know, and he's now a veteran. So we look to make sure we include everybody and try and provide across the board support for people. And a lot of it's about signposting. So we have got lots of charities in Nottinghamshire. So we know who they are, and we can say, well, actually, what you need to do is go and see them.
Yeah.
You know, and that way they get the support that they need.
And you're absolutely right. If you don't know that support's out there, you don't know that you can look for it.
Well, you only know what you know, don't you? And
Absolutely.
the trouble is with veterans, is they tend to not want to ask. Yeah, so they're very proud, you know, and they have difficulties. They don't really want to ask for help. And that's why it's important we have these breakfast clubs, because it's all like-minded people there. So they're there to support them and say, look, don't be daft, you need the help. You know, we can get you that support, and then they get in touch with the county or one of the charities, and that support is then given.
And if people are watching now and they're thinking, actually, I do need these signposts, I do need to be part of this community, where can they find out more information?
If you go on Nottinghamshire County Council's website, and there's a section there for the armed forces, and then the links to all the charities are there, the links to me, so if they want to get hold of me directly, and then I can put them in touch with the people on their behalf, we can do it that way.
So the support is there?
Absolutely there, yeah.
Lovely. Well, enjoy the glitz and glam of the event later on this year, and thank you very much for coming in to tell us all about that. Right, time for another look at one of our top stories today. And are you, or is someone you know, seriously under the weather at the moment? There are growing concerns over what medics are calling a quademic in the NHS, with cases of the four most common viral illnesses, such as flu and vomiting bugs, rising each week. As part of plans to cope with surging seasonal demand, Nottingham City Hospital opened an extension today. The Newell ward has already seen 12 referrals in its first week, and Jack Sims went to see how the unit is coping.
We've all said it before, whether it's a cough, a sneeze, or an empty desk. There's something going round this time of year. But it is these common colds and flus that can end up putting significant strain on our health services when they get more serious for some of us. And it's here in the halls of Nottingham City Hospital where this squeeze has been felt the tightest, with national concerns surrounding the increasing amount of flu, norovirus and respiratory cases. Last week, the NHS saw a 70% increase in these cases in hospitals across the country, 3.5 times higher than last year. This rise has been seen across Nottingham hospitals too, with serious cases of flu, other viruses and norovirus overall going from 75 to 105 cases across the QMC and City sites, such as the Newell ward, which has been designed to create bed space on other wards and reduce ambulance wait times. It is already seeing use, with 24 of its 27 beds now taken up by patients with various conditions, like 87-year-old Mary Hunt.
It's been brilliant. I didn't know about this hospital at one time, but I recommended it to anybody now. It's very good and fun. It's lovely. Get in there slow but sure.
And for the Hospital Trust, being able to provide a better quality care at this time of year will prevent wards from being overwhelmed and needing to treat people on stretchers in corridors, a familiar sight last winter.
This ward in particular has been really well timed with it opening, because actually we do have a number of closed wards at the moment. So that will enable us to keep taking patients out of A&E, reduce any ambulance waits, and try and keep our patients safe.
Although this ward currently has no specific seasonal virus cases, staff say it is expecting further increases and will do everything they can to keep beds free.
So at the moment we haven't really seen too much of a spike in the flu, COVID and cold kind of RSV virus yet, which is good. That's what we're hoping for, not too much of a spike. These are obviously concerning illnesses and viruses that we have to consider, especially at winter time.
The ward is expected to be open until Easter next year. But for now, doctors and nurses being able to adapt to whatever the winter throws at them will make all the difference to the patients lying in these wards. Jack Sims for Notts TV.
Thanks, Jack. Next, a major road was partially closed earlier today after a crash which left a person in a life-threatening condition. The collision, which involved a number of cars, happened on the northbound carriageway of the A46 near Bridgeford Gardens Centre at about 11:30 this morning. The road was closed northbound from the A52 at the Saxondale Island. Notts Police are warning drivers to avoid the area for some time. Next, and a man who attacked his housemate with a knife in a row over noise has been given a suspended prison sentence. Naya Lekeko, age 42, pictured whilst being arrested, stabbed his 23-year-old victim in the head and slashed him on the wrist in a rage triggered by the sound of a vape being dropped on the floor. It happened on Surrey Drive in Mansfield on June the 15th. Lekeko was charged with GBH and pleaded guilty in court. He was given a 12-month term sentence for 2 years, suspended for 2 years, I beg your pardon. We are back with you in just a moment when we are going to be meeting the Nottingham expert playing a vital role in transforming our aviation industry to net zero, ending one of the biggest sources of transport pollution to our environment. It's such an interesting chat. I cannot wait to talk to her about that. And we'll be finding out more about loads of different things that are going on across Nottingham today. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Hello, happy Thursday and welcome back to Notts Today with me, Emma Caldwell. Here are some more of your news headlines. And government changes to the Right to Buy scheme need to go further, Broxtowe Borough Council have said. Right to Buy was first established as Conservative housing policy by Margaret Thatcher, meaning since October 1980, council house tenants have been able to buy their homes at a discount. But over time, social housing numbers have fallen to create a major shortage. 4 in 10 new homes bought under the scheme are now rented out by private landlords. Proposed measures include extending the length of time someone has to be a tenant before they can buy their home. But Broxtowe Council say the scheme should be ditched entirely. Next, and a burglary suspect was found hiding behind a shop counter by police responding to a call about a break-in. Officers found the man crouching behind a counter after going to the shop on Church Street in Edwinstowe at 1:30 in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Alcohol, cigarettes and vapes were recovered at the scene, and a 34-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of burglary, theft and possessing a Class B drug. He remains on police custody. Right, here on Notts TV, you can catch up with the very latest edition of the Notts TV debate. Francis Finn and a panel of local leaders talked over the hottest issues hitting the headlines. And this month, Francis is joined by former Tory Rushcliffe Borough Council leader Simon Robinson, Denisha Johnson and Councillor David Watts. He's the Lib Dem leader in Broxtowe. One of the topics this month was whether or not the BBC should pull all of Greg Wallace's programmes off the channel. Here's what the panel had to say about that.
Anything that's going to make somebody else feel uncomfortable should not be said. It's basic human decency to do that. And he doesn't seem to see, unfortunately, Greg Wallace, that what he was saying and what he was doing was impacting other people.
See, he would say he'd paying people a compliment. You know, the whole wolf whistle culture. You're paying a woman a compliment.
It is not paying people a compliment. And really, we ought to have moved away by this. We're in 2024, we're nearly in 2025. We shouldn't still be living in the Stone Ages.
But why is it Stone Age to behave like that?
Because it is intimidating, it is misogynistic, it is objectifying. Thank you.
And I know I'm asking what you might think are really obvious questions, but I do think that a lot of people just don't get this. So why is it not okay for a famous person or any person to say to a woman something about their body?
Because it reduces you to an object and does not necessarily take that you are a whole individual with thoughts and feelings and mindsets, and that you want to make a different impact in the world beyond your aesthetics. Personally, I would like to think of myself as a whole person, and I'd like society to think of me in that way too.
Simon.
Yeah, first of all, these allegations, nothing's been proved. I think process should be allowed on this. There should be an investigation. And I agree with David. The allegations are certainly absolutely totally unacceptable. Works both ways. I've been involved with allegations where women have made unacceptable comments and they're treated differently. And it's like, well, that's all right because you made it to a man. And again, consistency is very important, because we always, say it goes one way, and quite serious comments were made towards men, and they were treated differently as well. But I totally accept 2024, the language has changed, I think expectation has changed, and standards should be much higher, particularly on those profiles.
An interesting chat indeed, and of course you can find that on Notts TV or on our YouTube channel. Time now for our final great guest of the show, and a professor from the University of Nottingham is set to take the driver's seat in the UK's government net zero task force to find ways to speed up our transition to greener energy when it comes to the planes in our skies. Professor of Mechanical Engineering Carol Eastwick will be challenged with the role of finding ways in which policymakers and aviation companies can come together to reduce carbon emissions, which the industry contributes to 20% of, according to their research. One of the methods she is looking at is liquid hydrogen, and she joins me now to talk about the big task. Thank you so much for joining me. First of all, what is the aim of the government's Jet Zero Task Force?
Well, as you quite rightly said, it's really to look at how we decarbonise. So people want to fly, quite rightly, they want to see their families, they want to go on holiday. But at the same time, they want the planet to be in a better state so that we can make sure that our children inherit a better climate condition, and make sure that we really are net zero by 2050.
And it's a really big challenge as well. The UK was the first aviation sector in the world to set a net zero target by 2050, which isn't actually that far away. Do you think this is an achievable target?
I think if we work together, and you may know the government has also introduced something called a SAF mandate. So that SAF stands for Sustainable Aviation Fuel. So we don't just have one method of getting there to that net zero future. We can look at electrification, we can look at sustainable aviation fuel, and we can look at hydrogen. Working all of those together, yes, we have the potential to do that, but we do need a lot of investment and research to make sure we can get there.
And you talk about the research and the ways to get there. It is going to be a challenge. What are some of the challenges that you might face in decarbonising aviation?
So one challenge is around scale up of production of sustainable aviation fuel. Another is around the materials information and manufacturing that we need in order to be able to have a liquid hydrogen fuel system, understanding the fundamental sciences involved with those. We also need to look at new infrastructure in order to be able to put into the airports those different fuels as well. So there's quite a combination of different things that we need to look at, business as well as engineering. So it's across the piece. Sorry.
No, it's such an interesting subject, and I think it's one of those things where, I'm not jetting off here, there, and everywhere all the time. But I do go on a family holiday occasionally, and we're on an aeroplane, and I think sometimes it's a hard sell potentially for people to talk about changing how they fly, or maybe how they holiday, because like you say, people want to see their family, they want to go on holiday. Is it a hard sell to people to change their opinion on flying, when some families would argue that they would want to do it regardless of their carbon footprint?
I guess it depends whether you think it's going to impact that. So if a family is wanting to go on holiday, if they're still going to the airport, they maybe go by electric transport. They get to the airport, the energy at the airport is renewable. They then get onto the aircraft, and the aircraft is net zero. From that extent, they're not actually going to see a real change, other than they're doing through the same steps, if you like, but they might look slightly different. The other aspect, of course, is that if we're at the moment, we're world leading. And if we can sustain that world leading edge in terms of green aviation, we will ensure that we've got jobs for the future, and highly skilled jobs as well, that will boost the economy. So actually there's a benefit for us in making sure that we get this right now, to make sure that, one, we're able still to do the things that we want to do, and two, that we actually improve the economy, both from the point of view of being able to fly, but also so that we have good quality jobs in the future.
Do you know, this excites me so much, and I'm so grateful there are people like you who know how to do this stuff, and how we can, maybe change this for the future generation. So what's the involvement with the University of Nottingham and all of this?
So I'm part of what's called UK ARC, which is the Aerospace Research Consortium. Nottingham is one of the 11 universities that were involved in setting that up. That's expanded. We're now we've got a whole network of universities. So it's not just the University of Nottingham, it's across the region as well. If we look at Loughborough and Sheffield and Derby, there are lots of universities, Nottingham, Trent, we're all involved in different research. What are we actually doing? Well, we're looking at the built infrastructure. So our architecture and built environment are looking at the airports and understanding that. We have a zero carbon innovation centre as well, which brings together all of us that are working on decarbonisation functions, both to remove the emissions, but also to make sure that we look at non-CO2 emissions as well, which is perhaps less talked about, but NOx and contrails are another aspect of aviation impact on the environment.
It is such an interesting subject. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing more about that with us today. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Now, we've got a very special episode of Team Talk that is available to watch for you on notstv.com and on our Notts TV official YouTube channel too, where we have an exclusive interview with former Forest manager Billy Davis. The Scotsman managed the club during two memorable spells, firstly between 2009 and 2011, then from 2013 to 14. And also on the show, former Forest forward Nathan Tyson, who played nearly 200 games for the club. Take a look.
I was always nimble and I was always quick, so I always wanted to have it catered around me, that what you're going to get from me. Now I think these days it's all changed. I like to think that clubs are doing it and they are putting players in different groups. So Billy was really good at it. Yeah, Billy was really good at it. We had group one, well, A, B, C and D, didn't we? So, you know, you had the fittest and fastest at the front, then it just catered down to the ones who I'm not going to name names. It's in the bottom group now.
Yeah. They get all the data together, they group them up, and it's like for me, like that, you know, all these. I never used to get the players to. On maybe 2 occasions they would run, but they wouldn't run more than 400 metres. Yeah. You know, I would get them sort of right at the start, you know, get the sort of stamina stuff, they do it. Then throughout the pre-season there would be 2 days where I would do like, they would run 15 400s in 3 groups where you've got 1 running, 2 resting, so you're getting 2 rests, and that was the real thing. But the rest of it, they wouldn't run more than 400 metres. Be a lot of sprinting stuff, power stuff, what I call football related. You know, and again now, like they say, sports scientists, they group them up, and they do their certain amount of runs.
Time for another look at your photo of the day. Now look at this, great shot of some wintry petals. They're beautiful, taken in West Bridgford by Mackenzie Louise on Insta. Thank you for that. Time now for your weather, and tonight we'll see temperatures dropping to 5 degrees, so wrap up warm if you're off out. Tomorrow will be a cloudy day with highs of 7 and lows of 5. And lastly, on Saturday we'll see some sunshine in the early afternoon with a low of 6 and a high of 7. Well, that's it from me, unless you're watching at 6:30, in which case stick with us for more local news. I'm back again tomorrow, but until then, have a great day, whatever you're doing, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.